Absolute versus comparative advantage. Great discussion we're going to have here to help us understand some basic economic concepts. Absolute and comparative advantage are concepts that are used to make decisions by individuals, sports teams, and countries. Governments use comparative advantage to make trade decisions. So it's going to help us out with some of these Chapter 1 concepts, and most of these are located down at the bottom of your note guide for Chapter 1-2. And so we're going to take a look at specialization and then use that to help us understand comparative and absolute advantage. And we'll also take a look at opportunity cost. So let's get started here. Okay. First of all, let's take a look at our objectives here. We're going to analyze trade-offs and opportunity costs. And then we're going to apply that understanding of trade-offs and opportunity costs to our understanding of absolute and comparative advantage. And then at the end of this lesson, we'll have just a great little application for you to apply those concepts. First of all, we need to learn about trade-offs. What is a trade-off? Trade-offs are alternative choices that you deal with all the time. For example, after school today, you can decide to go home and take a nap. You can go to some form of practice, whether it be FFA or if you're on the basketball team or track. You may decide to go home and watch Netflix. Spend some time that way. Anyway, your choices or your trade-offs are endless. There's lots of things that you could choose to do. Now, related to trade-offs is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is when you take a look at all of those trade-offs and you decide what you are going to do, the opportunity cost is the best one that you didn't do. Let's see what I have written here. In other words, it is the next most valuable decision or best decision you could have made among the trade-offs available to you. Maybe another way to look at it is that there is a dance coming up, and maybe 2 people have asked you to the dance. You can only go with one. So whatever one you choose, that means you can't go with the other one. So the opportunity cost is the one that you did not go to the dance with, because as soon as you make one decision, then you give up another trade-off or another opportunity. And so that's opportunity cost. And so opportunity cost is utilized in analyzing decision-making, personal decision-making, business decisions, and decisions that countries will make as far as how they're going to engage in particular types of trade decisions or defense decisions. So opportunity cost, always something has to be analyzed. What are you giving up in order to get something? If you're deciding to go to college this fall, most of you are seniors, you are going to be giving up something if you go to college. And so the opportunity cost for most of you that you'd be giving up is that you could be going to work somewhere and making money. Now let's take a look at absolute advantage. Absolute advantage means being able to complete a task or produce a product better than anyone else. You're the best at whatever it is that you do, better than everybody else. Well, let's see if we can't take a look at an example here. Absolute advantage, and let's use some images from some of our friends in the class of 2016. I think this is a few years ago, maybe junior high. Anyway, we've got 5 of them here. Here's our basketball team. And so let's take a look at absolute advantage. Notice that I've got Abel right here on the top, and I've got him on the top because Abel is the best basketball player of these 5. Now, of course, I don't know that. We're just using this as an example, but we're just going to say that Abel here has an absolute advantage over Pardo and Manny and Ernesto and Tanner. He's the best at everything. But is absolute advantage the best way to make a decision about how we are going to field a team of all of these players? They all have to play. Even though Abel's the best player, can he play the game all by himself? No, we've got to have a field of 5. And so we have got to have some type of method to make this decision. And absolute advantage is not going to be the best thing are the best approach to making that decision, because he can't play point guard and center and power forward and small forward and shooting guard. He can't do all of those things at the same time. So we're going to have to utilize all these players, even though we're assuming that none of them are as talented as our able. So, and what an appropriate name. You know, I just chose him at random. He's very able at being the best on the basketball team. So, what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at something called comparative advantage, which is going to be a little bit more effective way to make a decision. So comparative advantage, and the emphasis on compare. We're going to compare our choices to one another. So comparative advantage, the law of comparative advantage tells us that the worker or the player or the business or the company or the country, whatever it happens to be, but in this case we'll use the word worker, and it's interchangeable with whatever particular resource we're dealing with. In this example, the resource we're dealing with are basketball players. The law of comparative advantage tells us that the worker who has the lower opportunity cost of some output should specialize in performing that task. What does that mean? Well, if you take Abel and you put him, let's say, at point guard, the opportunity cost of putting him at point guard is whatever he would have been next best at doing. Now, in this case, he's best at everything, so it really wouldn't have mattered. So the opportunity cost in Abel's case is that he would have to play in one of these positions. But as it turns out, he's the best player, and he's best at point guard, so we're going to put him there. Now we need to analyze what it is that these folks here are best at, or to look at another way, what is it that they're not so bad at? So there's two ways to look at it. You could look at it and go, where are they going to do the least harm to the team when they're out there on the field or on the court? So I suppose we should take a look at it positively and go, what are they best at? Even though one of these players, let's just take Manny. Maybe Manny is not as good as anybody on the team. He's not as good as Tanner, Abel, Pardo, or Ernesto at doing anything. Does that mean he should just sit on the bench? No, we've got to find something for him to do. So we're going to find something that he's the best at. He's weak at everything, but there's got to be something that he's not quite as weak at, where his opportunity cost is at its lowest if we put him in that particular position. Some of you may recall from days in Little League. I remember this. Where do you put your weakest player on the baseball field back in the Little League days? Shortstop? Pitcher? No. You always ended up out in right field. That's right, right field. Why? Because not that many people are left-handed, and so the ball generally goes to left field rather than right field most of the time. So you put them out where they can do the least damage. So anyway, coaches have to make these decisions, and whether they realize it or not, they are using the law of comparative advantage to figure out where best to put these players. So let's take a look at it and see what we can do here. So in applying the law of comparative advantage, we are going to be specializing. And specialization occurs when workers focus on a single task. Specialization occurs when workers focus on a single task and become more efficient and productive at that task. And they become more productive because they're repeating that task over and over and over again. So maybe we're going to take Tanner, we're going to put him at small forward. And every day at practice, he's going to practice being a small forward, working on it over and over and over again to get really good at it. We are not going to take him and go, well, maybe on this game we'll just give him some experience being point guard because it'll be nice experience for him. No, playing varsity level basketball, we're not going to do that. We're going out to win. We're going to focus and specialize in becoming a forward and becoming a really good forward. So that's specialization. So let's see how that might work out here. So here's our basketball players. And once again, we've got Abel. Abel's the best. Abel's the best at everything. So what should we do with him? Well, let's put him at point guard. And because he's the best at everything, he's the fastest. He's the best dribbler. He's pretty good shooting at long distance. He can think on his feet. He can go down there and set up the plays. He sees the field. He's the man. All right, so then next we need somebody that's tall and strong. We'll put Ernesto here at center. And then we'll take Tanner, put him down here at a small forward, and then Pardo, we're thinking that the best thing for him compared to everybody else is going to be here as a power forward, and then we'll take Manny and make him our shooting guard right there. And so there's our lineup, and then we're going to go to work on that and see how it works out for us. But we have applied not absolute advantage, but comparative advantage. Abel, compared to everybody, is going to be in this very important position here of running the field, being the point guard, and being in charge. And so that's how we utilize the law of comparative advantage. Now, let's see if we can apply that to an assignment for you here. We don't need that one. Let's take a look at this. Economic specialization application. All right, let's read this out here together. And I'm going to have you get in teams of 3 to 4, work on this together. And what you can do is you can take this PowerPoint, I'll have it over on the student drive, and you can open it up and go through it again. And then at the end of it, I've got some spaces here where you can actually do your work. And there's some discussion questions, and I give you an example of how to set up an Excel worksheet so you can analyze our little workplace situation. And remember, you're going to want to use comparative advantage. That's a big hint in getting this thing done. There's no tricks here. We're just going to go through, and apply just some basic economic concepts to getting a simple job done. So you are managers of a service business. You have 2 employees that do various odd jobs for people. You have a situation where Alejandra and Luis wash cars and mow lawns, and that's all they do. They wash cars and mow lawns. You must decide how to divide the work by using specialization to increase productivity. Alejandra claims that she is better than Luis at completing all the tasks and that there is no need to work together. In other words, Alejandra has an absolute advantage over Luis. She's better at everything. She can wash cars faster. She can mow lawns faster. Why should she work with Luis? Alejandra claims she's better, and so she says, "Just let me do my job," exclaims Alejandra. But Luis thinks that if they work together, they might be more productive. To that, Alejandra says, "He just wants to take advantage of my superior work skills so that he can work less. And I, Alejandra, will have to work more." So you got a conflict going on here in the workplace, and you must intervene and decide who does what now before this situation gets out of control. So here's some details. Alejandra can wash a car in 45 minutes, 1 car in 45 minutes, and mow 1 lawn in 1 hour. Luis can wash a car in 1 hour and mow a lawn in 3 hours. So 45 minutes for a car for Alejandra, 60 minutes for Luis. So Alejandra is better by 15 minutes. Mowing lawns. Alejandra mows that lawn in 1 hour. Luis takes him 3 hours to mow the same size lawn. Clearly, Alejandra has the what kind of advantage? Starts with the letter A. Yes, absolute advantage over Luis. Let's take a look here and see what the job is that they must do. The job. Both Alejandra and Luis are responsible for washing 2 cars and mowing 1 lawn of equal size. So each person has to wash 2 cars and mow 1 lawn. Here's a summary. Now I'm going to encourage you to use Excel to create a worksheet just like this. And you can actually do this in PowerPoint if you've done that before. If you've taken the MS Office class, you can create tables and use Excel, or do it in Excel and insert it. That's what I've done here into the PowerPoint presentation. So go ahead and create something like this. You've got the work that needs to be done here, cars and lawns, quantity of 2 each. So when you do this and you're going to do your analysis, you're going to have to do, if 2 cars per person, 2 people, how many cars need to be washed to get the job done if they work together? Yes, 4. 4 cars, 1 lawn apiece, and what do they have to do? That would be 2, because each person's responsible for 1 lawn. So it's a total of 4 cars and 2 lawns that have to be done. But let's take a look at what it looks like if they're not working together. This is just what it's going to take them working independently to get each of their tasks done. So cars, 2 cars. Luis, it's going to take him 120 minutes, Alejandra 90 minutes. Total time, 210 minutes. Lawns, it will take Luis, that's at 3 hours, going to take him 180 minutes, and Alejandra 1 hour or 60 minutes, for a total time of 240 minutes. So Luis, it's going to take 300 minutes, and as part of your analysis, you can convert that back to hours. And Alejandra, it only takes her 150. So it's taken Luis twice as long. So here is the task. Is it possible to apply comparative advantage so that Luis works less time and Alejandra works less time, and that the total time is reduced? So if you can reduce Luis's time and at the same time reduce Alejandra's time, you can reduce the total time. You may not reduce Luis's time and increase Alejandra's time. Otherwise, there would be no reason for her to cooperate or work together. It has to be mutually beneficial. Both people must benefit from working together. So there is your task. So see if specialization can reduce the time required to complete the job involving the washing of 4 cars and mowing 2 lawns. Convert the hours to minutes for your analysis, and then convert the minutes back to hours for your summary and evaluation that you will do here on these discussion pages here. What is the resource they are using to complete the job? And should these 2 people work together to complete the task in less time, and why? Let's go ahead and put your discussion there, and then make sure you have numbers in some form or another, and I recommend you use Excel to do the analysis to support whether or not they should work together utilizing comparative advantage. So no tricks here, just apply the law, do the numbers, and there's an extra page for you there if you need to. And so good luck with that and have a good time. It's a lot of fun.